Hello and welcome to Hybrid, powered by chinkseyMEDIA. We're back again for every word from Mikel Arteta's pre-Burnley presser. Mikel Arteta faced the press ahead of our trip to Turf Moor to take on Burnley in the Premier League. We are on a run of 8 straight wins in all competitions, and Mikel spoke about our form, taking on Scott Parker's Burnley, and much more. Mikel Arteta, on any new injury news? No, I think we have the same ones. Martinelli is still out. Saliba, we have to wait and see. We have another training session this afternoon and the rest are still getting closer. I think in the right direction, but not available yet. Mikel almost does this every week. There's always a player who's touch and go. This week, it seems to be William Saliba. Last week it was Gabriel. My prediction last week was it was mind games and that Gabriel will be fine because of his aerial prowess. However, this week I'm gonna say I think Saliba will probably miss out. He might be on the bench, but I think he'll opt with Christian Mosquera. So I think the back four is gonna be Jurriën Timber, Christian Mosquera, Gabriel, and Ricardo Calafiori. On the timeline for Gabriel Martinelli, we don't know yet, but I think this game is going to come too early for him. Okay, yeah, Martinelli, he ruled him out for midweek, so obviously Martinelli is out for the Burnley game. However, Slavia Prague's on Tuesday afternoon. I don't think he'll be fit for that one, so you'll probably be looking at the Sunderland game at best. On a timeline for Havertz, Madueke, Odegaard and Jesus, I would say weeks and some of them pretty soon, hopefully, if they keep evolving the way they are. It's difficult to put a game, you know. You know that we have the international break, which is a 2-week break there. And after that, I think we'll have some back. I don't know if it's going to be all of them, some of them, but we'll be quite close by then. Okay, cool. In terms of the likelihood for return, I think Madueke is probably at the front of that little list. Then I would say Odegaard, secondly. And then I'll probably opt for this interesting between Kai Havertz and Jesus. But I mean, I'll probably say pecking order, Madueke, Odegaard, Havertz, then Jesus. Because Jesus looks like he's back running and that, but for him to build up match fitness, for him to be able to kind of be fit enough and confident enough to be back in the matchday squad, I think it's going to take more time. With Havertz, he's probably in the gym now, probably back on grass, and I feel like he's closer to a return than Jesus. So yeah, just to reiterate, Madueke, Odegaard, Havertz, Jesus. On keeping the momentum going after 8 straight wins, yeah, and maintain the level of urgency, the concentration, the focus, the ambition that we are showing every game. Every game brings different challenges. Sometimes we have to be very patient. Some other times we have to have a different approach. The game against Burnley is going to be really tough. They are extremely well coached. I know Scott Parker really well and what he's done with the club and with this team. It's formidable. And when you look at all the games that I see, 5 of the last games that they've played, a very, very tough team to beat. Yeah, I mean, Burnley had a formidable, almost impenetrable defensive record last season in the Championship, where I think they broke records. They hardly conceded a goal all season. However, this season in the Premier League's different proposition for them, but they've acquitted themselves really well. You know, they've been competitive in a number of games. They were unfortunate against Liverpool at Turf Moor. It took a last-minute penalty from Mohamed Salah to break them down, really. So we know we can use that game as a kind of, as precedent, that we can't underestimate them. We know they're going to be defensively well-organised, well-structured, but we're used to that. We come up against that pretty much every week. You know, Atletico Madrid are well-renowned for being a defensive wall, and we managed to break them down and discombobulate them and end up winning 4-0. So I think it's a case of if we can get that early goal. If not, stay patient. Maybe by the 60th, 70th minute, we can throw more caution to the wind if it's still level or if we're, for whatever reason, trailing. But I think it's just we need to be patient. I think patience is the key. Patience and perseverance. And we should be all right. on how competitive this season is more than ever. I think the level is increasing year after year. Better structure, better organisation, better decision making from clubs, managers, better players. So it tells you the difficulty of that. When I look against the big teams, the way the promoted clubs have behaved and how they have all earned points or lost points, it's from very small margins, and that's the reality in this league. I mean, a thing that Mikel loves doing is, let's say, gassing up the opponents. I personally don't think that the teams have gotten better. I think the teams at the bottom have become more competitive, especially the mid-range teams. They're more hard to beat. Your Crystal Palaces, your Bournemouths, you know, that sort of team, your Fulhams, they're more rigid. They've got better players in their ranks. However, the top clubs, I think, aren't as ahead of the others in a sense, because I think the game has become more of a chess match. Almost every game is a chess match, and teams with low blocks, it's usually invariably a team against a low block, and it's just a matter of if you can break them down. And low blocks are really getting difficult to break down, you know. So yeah, I disagree with Mikel on that, but in a sense that, yeah, we're a very tough side. I think the main reason we're doing so well is because we're so defensively rigid and structured, and we also have a high degree of control in most games we play in. So those two factors now mean that the main factor, the deciding factor, is if we can get a goal. Because if we do get a goal, more often than not, we're winning games. And yeah, that's why we've literally won probably 90% of our matches this season. We've only not won 2 games, which were against last season's champions in Liverpool and the team that finished 1 place below us in 3rd, Manchester City. On if picking his team is the worst part of his job, no, I cannot say that. It is the worst part in terms of the decision with certain players when you don't allow them to play, which is the hardest part in our job. But they acknowledge that as well, and at the end, when they make decisions, some good, some bad. I'm not judging every decision that they make. We cannot do that. So the other way around, this cannot happen. So at the moment, we are dealing with it in a really positive way. And you can see the consequences of that in the impact that every player that is not playing is having. And when they have to play, the way they are performing. And you only do that with good preparation and good mental state. Yeah, I mean, I looked at the fixture list and the calendar just earlier on, and I did notice that we're effectively playing every 3 days up until like the Christmas period. So we've got games coming thick and fast in the Premier League. We've got a little break in terms of the Carabao Cup, but it will be Premier League, then Champions League, and Premier League, then Champions League. So the games are coming thick and fast. There's going to be injuries. There's going to be players coming back from injuries. There's going to be players in better form than others. So I think a lot of players will get a lot of game time. A player that springs to mind when game time is the subject is Ethan Nwaneri. Obviously now he played well in midweek. He's not going to start tomorrow, but he needs to be ready. That's the key word. Miles Lewis-Skelly is another player that is close to the first team. He needs to be ready. Christian Mosquera is probably the closest to the first team in the sense that he's probably the 12th player in the squad. Well, arguably between him and Martinelli, to be fair, who was on good form before his injury. So there's competition for places, which could only bode well for the team going forward, especially as we go into a hectic period of fixtures coming thick and fast. On managing the disappointment of players who aren't playing, well, it's an education that you probably get since you are young and you decide to play football. You know that there are 11 players playing and there are another 10 or 12 that are not going to start the game. That doesn't mean that they are not going to be important for the team. So hopefully that's an education for all of us with the right coaches very early in our careers. If I have to do that right now, obviously it will be difficult, and just try to do it with an open heart, understanding that you care about them and you want the best, and they will have their moments, and then try to be as fair as possible when you see a certain behaviour and that willingness to play, giving them the opportunity to play. Yeah, I think a buzzword that Mikel Arteta used earlier on in the season was finishers. And also he's already alluded to the fact that during the summer he had a big meeting with all the squad and essentially just explained to them that it's going to be a long season. We're going to have a lot of games. We're probably going to play in a region of 60 fixtures. We've played around 15 so far. So you could say, you know, we're about a quarter of the way through what we expect to play kind of thing. So there's a lot of games to play. There's going to be injuries. And if you perform, you will get an opportunity. The squad's at a high level, a high standard. And don't forget, just because you're not in a starting lineup doesn't mean that the game state wouldn't determine a player from the bench to need to come on and change the game. For instance, Trossard's done that. Martinelli's done that. And so on and so forth. On if he's calmer on the sidelines, yeah, sometimes more than others. I think it's the years. I think the trust and confidence that you have in the team as well, in the work that you do. Getting feedback, I think, is the best thing for people that are very close in our job. People that you know really, really well. What is that coming from? Because sometimes it's a way. I want my team to be very active and at the same time, very creative and very disciplined. And if you want the manager to be like that, you cannot just be watching a game like this. It's something that is the way I am. It's the way I live the game, and I want the players to live the game constantly with that body language. And from there, you can always improve. Yeah, obviously, Mikel has kind of mellowed slightly. He's getting a bit older, you know, grey hair starting to appear. But as we all do, we all get old. But I feel like he's got more experience, and obviously, if you have belief in the team and if you've set the right instructions from the outset, then the essence of, you know, the emphasis on having to kind of shout and go crazy on the touchline is less. Obviously, the team is playing really well, but Mikel, being a perfectionist and a micro-analyst like myself, he's going to kind of notice things that aren't apparent to people, you know, that don't work within close quarters of the players. So it's just important for him to stay calm, as with the players, because obviously the manager is a reflection of the team, you know. You don't want the manager going ballistic every 5 minutes. However, there might be instances where it does require him to kind of show some passion, if you like. Arsene Wenger, he had a different character. His style was more different. It was more calm, composed. Whereas Arteta, probably a mixture. You could say is a bit of a reflection of the managers he used to play for. A bit of Pep, a bit of Moyes, a bit of a bit of Wenger. And obviously his styles of play reflect the managers he played under too. On who he turns to for feedback, a lot of people, some of them you know, and I cannot say it here, but that's just that. The good and the bad, all the ideas that they can bring to us better. People that have a different perspective. They're not with us every single day, and probably that's the people that have a more clear picture about looking at things with a different idea or perspective to help us. Not only me, but all the coaches and for sure the players as well. I reckon one of the people he's referring to is Pep Guardiola. We know that they're close and they speak every day. Probably someone like Wenger as well, perhaps. On if it's other managers, yeah, it can be other sports, but you will know them. It's Guardiola. On if every player is giving him something to think about, well, that's what we want to create. If you want to get the best out of all of them, those standards have to be set in training. And if you don't have that in training, it's very difficult to replicate it during matches. So it's the balance between the competition and cooperation between the players as well to understand their role on the day and what they have to do. But I love that spirit. Okay, so basically no then. Because if it was yes, he would have said that. But he's saying he wants to create the atmosphere where every player has a realistic chance of starting. But obviously, as you know, we have certain players that are literally the best in their world, in their position. People like Timber, people like Rice, people like Gabriel, Saliba, Saka, Raya. You know, 5 or 6 players who are within the top 2 or 3 in their position in the world. So anyone that's in the squad, you know, in and around them, has their work cut out to kind of oust them from the team. However, that doesn't mean you can't play. It doesn't mean you should drop your standards because, you know, in training is where the manager can see the attitude of the players on a daily basis. So if you keep your attitude at a high level, then who knows? You might get an unexpected start when certain players need to rest. For instance, Julian Timber might need a rest. He's come back from a serious ACL injury recently. Ben White needs to be on his toes. On Scott Parker calling our side a well-oiled machine, I think we are able to dominate a lot of aspects of the game. We can, of course, improve in many of them still, and that's a constant evolution as a team. But the more resources and the more things we can dominate throughout a game, especially in the Premier League, the better chance we have to win games. And yeah, I've already alluded to the fact that we've got the defence and the defensive structure on point. You know, in terms of midfield, we usually control the game, so that's on point as well. And well, so if we're dominating most matches, effectively, it's going to be a mistake or a transition that we're going to concede from. We usually got a good shape behind the ball. We usually win the ball back quite fast. And we've got players that can defend well 1v1, especially to neutralise transitions. People like Timber, as I say every week, people like Saliba, Gabriel, and even Ricardo Calafiori has improved significantly. I saw him up close and personal, and he's improved physically as well. It looks like he's been in the gym, quite a unit, you know, definitely over 6 foot. I'd say he's probably about 6'1", 6'2", and he's definitely filling out, you know. He's done some good work physically. So even him being a physical specimen, those four as a unit is arguably the best I've seen in any Arsenal era. On the number of fixtures in a season, every decision that we make in terms of a fixture has to be guided on two main things. I think the players' welfare and then supporters. That's it. And the rest has to come very, very far away from that. And we should never forget that principle. That's the only thing I will say. Okay, yeah, I did allude to the fact that obviously Arteta has said that he's had a meeting with the players in pre-season to tell them that it's a long season. Everyone's going to get game time. Not one player is going to play all 60 games. Plus, the strength of the squad allows and enables Arteta to kind of make changes here and there. So, because we're playing every 3 days, what I just mentioned is going to come into effect. So, obviously, what I'm going to presume is what's been happening most of the season. Miles Lewis-Skelly has been coming in for Champions League games. Ricardo Calafiori has been having a breather but playing Premier League games. You might even be able to put a Ben White in there as well, who played in the Carabao Cup in midweek. Timber comes in tomorrow. So I think it's just making changes here and there. Obviously, William Saliba, I've predicted, will be out tomorrow, but he may play. Who knows? But obviously, it's just about utilising the squad and keeping all the players fit, especially going into the second part of the season. We want our players fresh in March, April, where that's the business end of the season and where things get won. On if teams will pull out of competitions in the future, I hope we don't. If we have that big piece of paper with those two principles there in front of us before we make any decision, all of us in our industry, we won't get there. If we don't and we just ignore that, then anything is possible. Well, I don't know about other clubs, but I just certainly hope that Arsenal don't pull out of any competitions, because hopefully we can get ourselves at least one. That's the bare minimum. And hopefully 2 or more trophies this season, because I do think we're more than capable of doing something really special this season. Really special. On if this is a good opportunity to win trophies, it's a big opportunity that we have ahead of us, but we have to continue with that level of consistency, and we know how difficult that is. Tomorrow is going to be an extremely tough match for us, and we're going to have to hit those performance levels to win the game. Yeah, I mean, it's just about guarding against complacency, and it's about patience and perseverance. If we can put 3 big ticks across those factors, then we'll be all right. On managing the expectations of our academy players. When you're delivering good news, it's so easy and it's so wonderful, and you get an incredible reaction, but we have to be prepared in our job to give other kinds of news and messages. Sometimes. it is for the best for the team and maybe not for the best for the individual. But you never know, because some decisions that at the time you think are not good for you, they become the best decisions for your career. And I've experienced that myself. So make the most of them, and we'll see what happens the next day. So yeah, Arteta's obviously referring to the fact that he had to leave Barcelona as a youngster. He had to go out on loan to teams at PSG. He also went to Rangers. From Rangers, he went to Everton. From Everton, he made that big leap to Arsenal. And here he is as the Arsenal manager. So if Arteta's explaining to a young player that, okay, he may not make it at Arsenal or he may not make the squad, he can use himself as a reference to say, but that doesn't mean you can't make it in football. So that's an important life lesson for any young player out there. On players calling the Emirates Stadium our house, that's the way I feel it. Hopefully the way they feel it as well. But to use that language, you really have to feel it. You have to feel that when you get there, your energy level, your desire to defend your house, to threaten anybody that comes very close to that, it has to be your mindset. And if the players feel that and our supporters feel that, I think we're going to be stronger. Yeah, I mean, the Emirates feels like my second house, you know? I know that place inside out, literally inside out. I know every room in that stadium. I've been in every room in that stadium for various reasons. So whenever I'm there, it just feels like this is my house, you know? So imagine the players who are there pretty much every day. So anyone that comes to infiltrate that, they have to be banished. And I don't want us to lose a single game this season there. Bayern Munich are coming up soon. On going away from home, we go to a different territory. Obviously, we use a different language for that, but at the end, the purpose and what we want to achieve in the game is very similar, but the context changes because we're in a different situation. Yeah, so obviously Burnley Turf Moor is the first of 3 consecutive away games. October was a month of home games. We had 5 home games out of 6. Now tomorrow is the beginning of November, where we also have 6 games. Off the top of my head, we're playing Burnley, Slavia Prague, Sunderland. Then there's an international break. Then we have Tottenham, Bayern Munich and Chelsea. So it's a kind of month well punctuated by the international break. When straight after it, thick and fast, we have a big week coming up. But we need to take things step by step. We need to focus on these 3, you could say, lesser away games. Nonetheless, we need to get our winning streak to 11 before the international break. And I believe if we have the right mindset and attitude, there's no reason why we can't do that. On if players could go on strike because of the fixture schedule, hopefully not. If we look after the players' welfare and our supporters, I think we're never going to get to that point, and that's it. We have to close the window there. We cannot open that window. It has to be closed. It's our most precious value. We have the best league in the world, and we cannot just open any window for anything just to lose that because we don't respect that. And we forget what we are made of and what makes this game and this league so special. If we respect that, I'm sure we're going to be totally fine. Yeah, like I mentioned, there's games every 3 days, plus there's another 2 international games. So effectively, the players will be playing up to 8 games in November, and I'm pretty sure they would have done the same in October because there was also an international break there too. So this is where the strength in depth comes to hand, and this is where I was mentioning, and Arteta did say that everyone's going to get game time. It's for this reason exactly. Like if someone goes down with an injury or fatigue, the player that comes in doesn't drop the level and standards of the injured player. On hoping Noni, Kai and Martin are back for the North London derby. I'm excited because they are tremendous players. I see them work every single day, how desperate they are to be part of the team, the huge boost that is going to be for the squad to have those players available again after such a long time. I'm really happy that I think it's going to be very soon. Yeah, I think those are the 3 that are likely to be back in contention coming up for that game. If anything, I think Noni's probably the closest. and then Odegaard second. But hopefully Mikel Arteta is just playing mind games and Kai Havertz is closer to return than we think. On the impact of academy players performing well and what it has on the dressing room. Absolutely. And especially when we talk about players that are starting their careers, because we've all been there, and that's something that I discuss with the players and make sure that when Andre Harriman Anus thinks about this day, he knows the exact date, the team, the hour, who he played next to, and what exactly happened that day, because that's for the rest of your life. And we are all responsible to make that day, that night, very, very special for him. And the other fact, because you play a cup that you are in or out, and if we want to win every trophy and we want to be there, we have to be ruthless in every competition in order to achieve that. We are going to need any player, and in order to do that, you have to be at your best. And we have a lot of players that play very few minutes. But on minute 3, Kepa made that save because every day he trains like a beast, and that's not a coincidence. Yeah, I mean, I did mention in the last press conference, Arteta did get away with that. You know, making so many changes meant that the squad wasn't used to playing with each other. It's a bit rusty, a bit vulnerable there, and Kepa did make a vital save. And then also the second chance Brighton had in that first half, we were lucky because we were staring down the barrel, and it was unfortunate for them that they missed the chance. However, sometimes you need to ride your luck. I felt we did in that first half. Towards the end of that first half, we took control of the game, and then I think once you saw Saka, Calafiori, Zubimendi, Declan Rice, Gabriel, and so on and so forth warming up, it was just a case of if we can kind of hang in the game, or if not even take the lead, then those other players will see the game out. And that's exactly what happened and transpired. On sustaining the size of his squad, I've been part of that. When I was here at Arsenal, we had an incredible squad. When I was at Manchester City, and you could pick 2 or 3 players per position, if you want to go to Chelsea or Liverpool when they're winning, they all have it. We don't do anything special, and thank God we have it, because we have 5 or 6 players out, big players out, and we are having to use other kinds of solutions as well. And the team remains competitive, so very necessary. I don't think you get away at that level with anything else other than that. I mean, this is the first time I've seen Arsenal with such a strong squad. When Arteta was there, I wouldn't say the squad was strong like that. So I don't know what he's talking about there. I think he's having us on there. But yeah, in terms of having such a strong squad, I think, yeah, it's clear that this is the strongest squad in the league. The summer's recruitment has been exceptional. And it's just about making changes to be able to kind of cater for injured players, players with fatigue. On if there's a solution to the fixture congestion, no, probably it's not easy, but it has to be doable, because if we put something that is not feasible, then what are we doing? So it's doable for sure. So let's do it in the best possible manner, respecting players and supporters. I mean, I think we just have to get on with it. Anything that comes our way, we're going to have to deal with it, you know? So I just don't want any excuses, because we've had excuses the last few years, but I think this is the year where it's just about winning in any context, as the manager likes to say. On the confidence, means the squad feels unstoppable. No, because you always have that sense of urgency, and you see the complications and the challenges that the next opponent is going to bring you. We know that every 3 days we have very little time to train and prepare. We always have to be like this, and I see everybody's on their toes, ready for the next game, and accepting that challenge and understanding that the opportunity is there as well. And if we do what we have to do, we have a big opportunity to win a game. Yeah, I mean, Arteta's essentially saying, really, that if we kind of follow his instructions, you know, in terms of tactically, we're going to win 90-95% of matches, you know, because even the Liverpool game we should have won, the Manchester City game we should have won for different reasons. But we don't dwell on the past. I think we use the past to make us stronger in the future. And yeah, it's just about dusting yourself down and going again. on when he thinks the title race starts. For me, it's the very first day in pre-season, trying to prepare the team and individuals in the best possible way and go game by game because it's going to be so long. I agree, it's the marathon. Obviously, that's probably when he had the meeting, getting the kind of players in the right frame of mind, understanding, each player understanding that it's a long, grueling season. Everyone's going to get games. The substitutes are not substitutes, they're finishers. And we use all our experiences from the last 3-4 years to kind of tailor it for this season and understand that in any context, we've been there before. So we've been leading, we've been trailing, but ultimately and consequently, we've finished second invariably. So this time now, we've got to use everything, all the negative experiences, and use it to our advantage. On if he encourages players to talk about winning the Premier League, we have to focus on the journey and what we have to do every single day. Fixing the outcome, of course, we want to win it, and the preparation is towards that. Great. And we have set all of the protocols, processes, ambitions, everything. Now you have to focus on what you have to do. If not, you get distracted with the rest, and I don't want any of that around the team. Yeah, I've noticed a few of the players have openly come out and said, yeah, they believe that we can not only win the Premier League, but win more trophies on trying to go one step further in the Premier League. At the end, you learn that the margins to achieve it or not are many. So it can be that an opposition player is one-on-one against the keeper and he scores that goal. You are the champion. The other keeper saves it, you are not the champion. It can be other injuries, it could be other decisions, it can be a mistake, it can be many factors that we cannot control. What we can control is what we can do the best. There are many factors that have to go your way. You can do a lot of great things and still a lot of things have to go your way. The injuries and the players that you have to play, and they have to be there, and their personal lives have to be perfect, because if not, it can unbalance things. It's so many things, and it's so long, and we've already seen the turnaround in the league, and going to the Champions League is the same. Other leagues are the same. We're in a really specific context at the moment, and let's focus day by day. Well, to summarise that long paragraph, he's clearly referring to Heung-min Son's one-on-one against Manchester City 2 seasons ago. Because had he scored that, we'd have at least one Premier League title to our name. But let's not dwell on that. Let's win it this season. No, more to the point, let's beat Burnley tomorrow.